Hey, look at us. We
Push the button.
live. You do
Hey, I pushed the button.
I push the button.
Yay.
There's see, is it Animaniacs? Is that the no? Or is it Looney Tunes? It was Looney Tunes that had this character that was like, I want to push the button. I want to push the button.
I want to say that sounds like Animaniacs to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The new Animaniacs series that they rebooted is actually quite awesome.
Oh yeah.
A lot of really good stuff in there. I mean, the original one was like notorious for being way smarter than it had any business being, in addition to being just silly and crazy. And the new one is really, really good.
That's awesome. I'm copying.
Yeah, they definitely captured that magic, but then updated it, you know?
Nice. I remember getting really excited about now this is dated. It's probably been 10 years since they tried to do the reboot on broadcast TV of The Muppet Show. And I was really excited about it because I thought I liked The Muppet Show. And so I watched the new, I think they had like 3 episodes before they're like, look, that sucked. We're going to stop doing this. But I turned it on and man, I got so triggered watching Kermit and Miss Piggy because they have a ridiculously abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh no, these are my parents.
We're all just supposed to laugh at it.
Awful. Yeah. She just smacked him across the room for no reason. Yeah. That's not funny. That's it's awful. What? Ooh. So reboots don't always
I feel like ever since Jim Henson passed, the Muppets have been a little soulless. That for the most part they don't they feel very corporate owned. And the Muppet movie just called The Muppets, the one with Jason Segel, I really enjoyed that. But then they made a sequel and it was just horrible. And that's kind of what's happened every time is they'll come out with something good and then people see dollar signs and then they just with the Muppets again.
Have you watched the Melissa McCarthy Dirty Muppet movie?
No, I heard it was terrible. Was it any good?
I don't know. I want to watch it because it sounds kind of, even if it's bad, it could be wonderful.
Yeah, it's possible. I totally get that. I heard people say like this should have been great and it didn't work. But it could be worth watching.
It was kind of an awkward time to try to figure out what comedy should be doing too.
Yeah.
Like culture.
You want to start the show?
Start a show? What? Is my collar ready? What is my collar doing? Okay.
It looks great. Hello and welcome to the Enlightened Couch Potato Show. My name is Nicholas Rave and this is
Adrianne Gunn.
And what do we do here, Adrianne?
We do TV so hard, we just drop balls deep, basketballs deep into the moviness. These are if you're watching them, I'm squeezing.
Those are basketballs. They're small. They're small basketballs. They're like Nerf basketballs.
You don't squeeze softballs. Nerf balls for you can squeeze a Nerf ball like that.
For those little basketball hoops that you put on the door, you know?
Yeah. Anyway,
I saved it.
What we like to do here is we appreciate that television and movies can be transformational. We say that we can help people figure out how to watch movies and television for maximum psychological and personal development, or even spiritual development, which is what is the other way one can say that, or TV deeply. That is our aim.
Our mission and our quest.
Yeah.
To figure out how to suck the most value out of movies and TV. Because you're going to be watching it anyway. So you might as well have it
sucking value.
Change you. Oh boy. We're in a mood today. So
Happy Saturday.
How are you doing, Adrianne? What's going on?
I've been feeling this sort of thing. A couple things. So we just had the an anniversary of a year of everything shutting down. For me, that was the 13th. I did a last show of my other podcast show, I think was the 13th.
Which was live and in person, right? 2
live in persons, 2 people I hugged because we could. And those were my last hugs for like 6 months.
Oh boy.
And yeah, so it's an interesting thing to come around and feel what it's like to be a human. Everybody's sort of like reflecting on what's shifted and what's changed. And I found myself feeling a little sad to not be feeling more inspired or creative or something. There's that. And then this last 2 weeks, I've been in a lot of pain. My back and neck, my neck and shoulders had pain first, and then that threw out my back. And so I've been trying to unravel that. But I had a very emotionally healing experience listening to some music today.
Oh,
and
well, I think Enlightened Couch Potato can cross-contextualize to music as well.
Yeah, well, in the sense that dropping in and allowing a healing experience to happen. So this needs some preface of I have had challenges with the artist Brandi Carlile, and a lot of my friends really, really love her music.
I don't know who this is. Can you give me some?
Well, I think she's sort of folk rock, pop singer.
Okay.
A bit yodely, sort of epically dynamic songs. I can't exactly. There's a song of hers playing in my head. There's the song "The Story," which is pretty great, and she's been I don't know. She's a big deal for a lot of people.
Okay.
At one point, yeah. At one point, she wasn't. She was just a person named Brandi Carlile, who ended up being an opener at this show that I last minute was asked to be the sound engineer for.
Oh.
So back in 2003, there were music festivals. South by Southwest is very popular in Austin. There used to be a Music Fest Northwest, used to be a really big deal in Portland, Oregon, and it was kind of dying. They'd shifted it for 3 years, and the last minute, Music Fest Northwest calls me and says, we had somebody pull out, you're on our emergency call list. Can you show up at like Henry's Pub or whatever and mix the whole day? It's a whole night. It's one of those gigs where they somebody just leaves a cart and you assemble the PA system, and then everybody shows up and you're just like, figuring it out. What's happening? How many people? And they're like, bag full of mic stands and mics, and you're just like, wee. So that night was a songwriter stage. Cool. And I did hear rumors that the last guy was this Brian so-and-so who had written many of the songs on Norah Jones' Grammy-winning album. I did end up meeting Jonathan Rice that year. This was a couple of years before. It was like Jonathan Rice, and everybody freaking loves him. But the first person who showed up as I'm, setting up the PA, drove down from Seattle with this bald, grungy, really stinky sound engineer. And it's not necessarily common to show up with a sound engineer, but here's this female performer, songwriter, and I get it. Like, I'm a singer-songwriter at the time, and I'm like, yeah, a lot of sound engineers suck. I'm not one of them, but she doesn't know this. And I also know how to work with another sound engineer, a mixing engineer, and I'll be the house engineer. And there's an etiquette to that kind of thing that I know about, because not only was I a sound engineer for a while, I was a sound engineer for a while, and then I got trained professionally at one of the schools that teaches you how to do that. And this is me like 2-3 years after that. So she brings a sound guy, and I set things up, and he decides to start mixing her sound check really, 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 really loud, super painful loud. And she keeps sound checking this yodely thing, na, 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 and it's just like yodely over and over and over again. Now, in these kinds of like run and gun shows, like no one's a fucking superstar. sound check is like 10 minutes. Can you hear yourself in the monitors? Okay, what's your style? I got it. What's your arc? Someone else is doing that. We just need to like, and it's my job as the house person to take care of the whole venue. Now I'm contracted by, like, I'm 3 levels. Like, it's my responsibility to several different people on the stage, people in the audience, people in the club, and people who like hired me for the festival. All sort of faceless humans, but it's my responsibility. I'm the only one that's there. And it's crazy painfully loud. So I try to get the sound engineer to bring it down. He's like, I appreciate, she's awesome. Can you just bring it down? It's a bit too loud for the space right now. And he's like, no, and it's ignoring me. And I don't know if it's like, oops, I have boobs. I don't know. I just assumed it wouldn't be that way. And so I went up to her and I was like, so I dig what you're doing. Your engineer is mixing too loud. Would you be willing to ask him to bring it down a little bit? And she told me to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, alrighty. And this is like 25 minutes of the same yodel, like longer. So I was like, I just kind of want this to be done. So I'm like, this will be fine. This will be fine. This set will be over. It'll be too loud. And then I'll mix the rest of the night and it's going to be awesome. Now, what I didn't know is that there was a thing going on apparently in songwritery world, because both Jonathan Rice and this Brian dude, they like literally from the stage, like yelled, shut the fuck up to audience members. And it was like, if you want to have a conversation, go downstairs. We're playing music here. I didn't know that there was this vibe of you just get to be a dick from the stage. Right?
Wow.
Like, cool. Learning new things. And at this point in my life, I have also been an asshole to some people, but it didn't work well for me. So I was learning how to be like, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole. Anyway, I survived the night. The last 4 or 5 acts are beautiful. I'm like, Jonathan Rice, what a lovely kid with a Scottish accent for no reason. I mean, it was in Scotland for some time. I was like, okay. So I ended up listening to his music. At some point, he's like pretty good for him. Life goes on, I think. But then 2 years later, I am stealing internet in a casino lobby in Vegas because I live there and I'm driving my truck around to install like television service for people. And I hear over this Vegas casino loudspeakers, this goddamn yodel fucking song. And like chills, like the hairs on my neck, like I'm in a horror movie and like, why? What is happening? And I remembered her name. So I go like, look her up, and she had been signed to Columbia. And I'm like, what the fuck? How? What? Additional info. In the next year or so, when I lived in Bellingham and I'd met a bunch of like local bands, and we would like go, have you met Brandy Carlisle? And they're like, ugh, yeah, fuck, yeah. And so to know that I wasn't the only one that was like, God, she's a son of a woo. And she's like, so she signed to Columbia, and then she's singing duets with the fucking Indigo Girls, and she's suddenly in these movies like as singer, and she's just killing it. And all of my friends are like, oh my God, I love her so much. And I can't get over the PTSD about like, wait a second. 2 things. She was fucking mean to me. Like that actually happened to me, to my own life. And she's killing it. She's not only killing it, but she's also seems to be inspired and has some of the same influences. The band she has sounds like the band I want. Why is she living my life? And she got to be fucking mean. And that worked for her. And I was so livid about it for a lot of years. And then a couple of my friends who love me quite well, they're like, she's actually kind of good. I really actually like the song. I get it that this horrible encounter happened for you, and I don't know why people can be asses some days and still have shit work out for them. So it took me, what is that? That's a lot of years ago, right? It took me a bunch of years, and about a month ago I wrote to my friends and I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready. What are your favorite Brandi Carlile songs? I think I'm willing to attempt to listen, to hear with an open heart what people love. And so they sent me songs, and I set up a playlist that Amazon kept like forgetting. It's like, you have 0 songs in here. And I was like, no, I have 9. Anyway, so I fixed that. My songs were in there. Today I decided I'm going to batch cook and listen to these songs. And so I did. And I think it was like the 3rd song in there. There is a song where she is actually kind of singing a request for forgiveness about I think it's the That Isn't Me song. And I don't remember the words at this point. And this is the one that would sometimes come on my alarm clock, and I would slam it down. I was like, shut them up. But here, that song comes on, and it's like this sort of quest of an apology. Did I do the wrong thing? Did I mess shit up? That sort of thing. And as she's singing, I'm like, a lot of this sounds like stuff I would sing about. And I started getting shivers and a bit choked up. And all the while through these 9 songs, I keep getting ideas for other songs that I want to write. So I kept like pausing it and like, so my notebook has like 2 pages full of inspired ideas of things I want to write. And I'm still sitting with that bit of jealousy of the different choices that I made that kind of slaughtered and eviscerated the belief that I had in myself. Like, she and I had the same dream. Like, I've read some articles from what she dreamed for her life and was able to create. And I was like, no, that's what I wanted to do. And I can hear literally the same singer influences and the fucking choices that she's got, like the punk and the country that's showing up in her music. I'm like, that's my band. That's fine. That's fine. So I'm like, still sitting with where to live in this. In a different universe, there is an Adrianne who may have had a similar path. And I'm doing this thing now, which is great. I can't say that I don't have regrets. And I imagine, or I wonder, if you have any of these moments where you're looking at someone else's life and going, why the heck is that not me? What happened? What's different? But I did have feeling. It's epic. Her songs are fucking great.
Can I drop a couple thoughts before I answer that question?
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing is, this is just a quick thought. There are lots of assholes that are successful.
Right.
So that just means that being nice is not a prerequisite to being successful. But I truly believe there are no assholes who are happy. So being nice, being a good person, having compassion for others is not a prerequisite to success.
Sure.
But it is a prerequisite to a life worth living. Yeah.
I do know that entertainment did change in the mid-aughts. So there used to be a kind of rule that as a female musician, in order to be respected, you had to kind of walk in quite brassy to get your shit done. So I can't necessarily blame her for just modeling what had worked for other people at the time.
Sure.
But there was sort of a changing of the guard of how assholey one can be. And that happened somewhere in the early 2000s.
Well, my argument would be, even if that's how everybody else got things done, that doesn't mean you have to get things done that way. And I'm sure that there are examples of performers, successful and unsuccessful, and female and not female, who found another way, who weren't assholes and still were able to get people to listen to them. Like, I've heard Dolly Parton is quite a lovely person.
Yeah.
As an example. And I'm pretty sure she was that way the whole time, even when she wasn't super successful. So there's exceptions.
Yeah.
So not that she doesn't have a spine. I mean, clearly she does. She's got to hold all that up. I
imagine that at this point, having reached levels of, she might not be awful to people at this point. Like,
yeah,
I can't.
Oh, you mean Cardi B? No, who?
Cardi B.
Who's
Yeah, Brandy Carlisle, I imagine.
Sorry,
like
I got it
a
backwards.
wonderful person at this point, where she's like achieved the stuff and probably grateful. And
maybe not. Maybe she's still a miserable asshole. Okay, let's go back to the other conversation. So
yeah,
when you were saying like I went through this experience with this artist that I had all this with, and then you got this transformation out of listening to her music, and I had this thought. I don't think you can get that kind of transformation with somebody who you don't have shit with.
Fair.
So it makes me think about a Buddhist meditation called metta meditation, not meta, M-E-T-A, it's M-E-T-T-A.
Mm-hmm.
Short version, this is one of the most like important meditations in all of Buddhism. And the short version is, first, you have to train yourself to what they say, cultivate the feeling of loving kindness, or compassion is the word that they often translate it to. But it means the feeling that you have towards someone that you love when you want something good to happen to them. That's the best way I've heard it described, is it's that feeling. And you can feel that feeling a little, or you can feel it a lot. And learning how to feel it really profoundly is a prerequisite to this meditation. But then the real work starts, because the meditation is, once you can generate that feeling, the first thing you do is you meditate and you bring up that feeling, and then you think about someone that you love, someone that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even that you're like flowing that energy to that person, although you can imagine it that way. It's more just feeling the feeling and then holding that person in your mind. That's the exercise. That's the whole meditation. And it's usually pretty easy with someone that you love. Then the next step is to do it with a total stranger.
Yeah.
So to practice the ability to cultivate this loving kindness sensation in your body, and then bring to mind someone that you don't know from anybody. And the goal is to get to the point where there's no difference, where the feeling that you have is there's no, oh, I don't know this person, so I feel differently about them. And then the real tough one, or maybe this isn't even the most tough one. The next one is you think about an enemy. But they explain that just means someone you have shit with. Right. Like somebody you've got friction and baggage and whatever with. And same thing, you generate this feeling of loving kindness. You hold them in your mind, and it's hard. it kind of kills your heart boner, if that makes sense. At first. Right. So there's a writer. He wrote a book called 10% Happier. His name's Dan Harris. And he got a chance to ask the Dalai Lama in an interview about this meditation. He said, I need to understand, like, is the point, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this cultivation? Is it about me trying to send loving feelings to my enemy? And the Dalai Lama, gotta respect somebody who really like has a clear understanding of this stuff. Right. He says, no. The meditation is 100% selfish. Yep. It's not for the other people. The other person is just a placeholder. It's anyone you have shit with. When you bring up that feeling and then you bring them to mind, it's going to activate your neurology. It's going to activate all of these judgments and resistances and insecurities and fears and hurts and all of this stuff. And simply by staying in that feeling, your brain will start to rewire itself. Yeah. So just to finish up, the next one is maybe even harder, which is you do it and you think about yourself. Right. You bring up the feeling of loving kindness, and then you hold yourself in mind. And then the fifth step in the process is you do a body scan where you go from top to bottom or bottom to top, and you just notice what's shifted in your body. So that story that you told made me think of, that's kind of what you were doing.
I know. Yeah. And I was aware, the voice that kept over the lots of years tapping me on the shoulder. Two things occurred to me. It's like, so remember when you were a hurt person and you said things and you behaved in ways that people thought they just decided you were a bitch. Remember all your asshole years? What if finding a way to show up and listen to this is a way of healing and forgiving yourself? Wouldn't you want someone to be open enough to appreciate your art and get healing from it, even if you were an asshole, which you have been? We know this much, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm not ready. And then the other thing that felt interesting that happened is, and it was happening as you were talking just now, and I felt it, and it's part of the pages full of things that are now songs. What's interesting about her being able to sing the way she does and sing about what she sings about and in the way that she does it, and that feeling very much like things that I have sung or written down or want to play or that sort of thing. When I was playing music last, and it's been 6 years, I needed to take a break. There was a hurt there that happened. And I was just like, wait a second. Some of what I felt when I was singing and playing was that no one was singing and playing like me. That there was no place for a me. Here it is. During all these years, I am not listening to this person who exists and is on Columbia or whatever, like feeling very like I don't belong anywhere, which is kind of interesting because what ended up happening is when I went to the training in San Diego where you were on stage and like teaching that training NLP. Of NLP people was the first time I felt a belonging in a very long time. I didn't feel it in music. I didn't feel it in acting, didn't feel it in business school or businessy people, but NLP people began speaking a similar language. I'm like, oh my God, I found my people. But it would have been interesting to have been listening to this person and had a different level of permission or less hurt around where are all the loud, brassy female vocalists? Why is everyone whispering? Why are people singing with this weird, dumb accent? Like, because I was ready to like bust out my guitar and like, ah! And no one was fucking yodeling anymore on anything, no breaking of voices. Everybody was doing, do you remember the goddamn like whisper songs? Like you'd go to shoegazer shows and everybody would fucking whisper and I'd want to clap, but nobody was like clapping. Maybe their appreciation was like, like, I'm like, this song was fucking great. Why aren't we clapping? So pent up. And why are all of the dudes making money just like whisper singing? Where's your breath? And it was driving me nuts because no one was singing that way, except apparently she was. And oops, I missed it. And,
So you asked me if I've ever experienced anything like that. And I'm going to tie this back to what you just brought up.
Yeah.
So, yes, definitely. There's two examples. I think the earliest example that I had was before I got into personal development and whatnot. It was watching the movie Moulin Rouge. Mm-hmm. So I was a theater kid, musical theater specifically. And when I watched that movie, it was actually after the first time I watched it. It was a couple of years later when I was more distant from theater that I rewatched it, and it was physically painful because I watched it and I was like, I want to be in this. I want to be doing this, and I miss it immensely. And there was no experience that I'd ever had of a feeling like that feeling that I had when I was doing music theater. Mm-hmm. So after that, in the world of personal development, after my chosen career, there was two people in particular, three. Tim Ferriss triggered me quite a bit when he came out, but not as much as he triggers some people.
Yeah.
But then there were two, Brendan Burchard and Russell Brunson. Like, ooh. I have never wanted to punch anybody in the face quite as hard as I wanted to punch those two guys.
Yes.
And and it took me years of hearing other people say, hey, they've actually got some really great stuff. And then I was like, ugh. And by the way, not self-aware enough to even know that I was doing that. I would just be like avoiding their material. Right. And then one day, somehow, I started listening to one of Brendan Burchard's things, and I was like an hour into this audio program, I was just like, God damn it. I think he might actually give a shit about people, and he might actually have some really good stuff to say, and it might even be some stuff that I need to hear.
Right.
And it was really hard to swallow that pill. I think that I boiled it down to a combination of I was jealousy, just straight up. I wanted to be doing that, and I'm not, and I'm jealous. And then I would just be like, no, I just don't think he's really. But then it was also just a lot of bad experiences that had really jaded me to think that anybody who's successful must not be actually a good or providing value, that they're all tricksters and con artists. And it might be a good percentage of them. It's not true. There are some people who are very successful who are actually successful because they are actually helping people. And nobody's perfect. Yeah. Everybody's got stuff and baggage and whatever. But more recently, this is the thing I was going to tie back into what you said. More recently, I had an experience where I read a book by one of my favorite hypnotists on the planet. His name's Anthony Jacquin. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a book called Reality is Plastic. And it's when I read it, I remember having the thought about a third of the way through the book. I was like, I don't think I need to write a book about hypnosis anymore. Because I thought this is better than the book I was going to write. Like, he is hitting every single point that I wanted to hit in a book. I'd always thought one day I'm going to write a book about hypnosis, and I'm going to talk about my experience and my perspective on it. And then he wrote this book, and I'm like, I don't have to do that anymore. And I didn't experience the same kind of jealousy. And I'm certainly not saying I never experience it or that I can't experience it in other situations. But I'm saying in this situation, I think what happened was I love hypnosis. I love doing it. I love experiencing it. And I love the field itself. Mm-hmm. And when I feel like I am a servant of this field, like I'm trying to grow this thing, when I see someone else out there doing something good for the field, I'm like, great. So I had this thought that there's a perspective that's almost like there was music that you knew needed to be in the world.
Yeah.
And if someone else gives birth to it, it's still in the world.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely I do. I'm not going to say who the artist is, but there is another artist who has moments of a past of being quite abrasive, and yet I had a different level of respect for that person, but I did have more exposure to that person, and there's no effing way, even though that person has the same sense of humor and a lot of like the ways that they were showing up in the world, they would like tell the same fucking jokes that I could yell out the punchline from the back of the room. They even described one of our mutual musical friends the same fucking way I would, as like, and she smells nice. And like, who says that? That's fucking weird. That's my weird. Fine. You can say the same fucking whatever. It's cool. But there was no way that I was going to be that person, because that person there wasn't enough like similarity, and they were doing the Lord's work for music in a way that I could respect, and I wasn't going to have the same access being a one of me. So I don't know, it felt kind of different.
Yeah, and that thought the music comes out is still out there is not, it doesn't take all the sting away. There's still something in there about, like, for me, it's like maybe I need to be doing, like, I still need to be doing my thing. I need to be contributing something.
I think I just have had challenges. I've had challenges around the idea that there's really no competition, that there's everyone's voice is made different, and we're all made of, all of these different particles or whatnot for reasons that the world needed an Adrianne. And so this idea in our world of podcasting is that our voices are made to project out there and connect with who we're meant to connect with. So I have some challenges with somebody starts writing a book that I was going to write. Is it Jen Cicero or something like that? Cisnero. I don't really know how to say her name. I opened like You're a Badass or You're a Rock Star or like whatever. I opened the book and I'd been thinking about a book to write, and I opened the book and she's like, I'm a musician who became a life coach. And her first chapter is like, and a comedian, right? Musician, comedian, life coach. And her first chapter is, this is what the unconscious mind does. And I'm like, fuck you. Like the whole outline at the time. And when she's going, I'm not writing that book now. But like, I'm having challenges. Another artist, the time I was like, I'm just going to write this one woman show about my relationship with my mother and craziness and whether I'm going to be crazy. And then the artist is like, I read a thing, I type it to my best friend, and he's like, have you seen the Willamette Week, the article? And I look up and like, craziness, mom, one woman show. Fine, whatever. Like, I feel like I'm in a race. And I don't always know how to just drop in and say yes to my artistry and do the thing and make the thing, because oftentimes it does seem like somebody else is going to get there, because I think ideas are like that.
Yeah. And a lot of comedians will say that they don't actually listen to a lot of comedy anymore because they can't.
Yeah.
Because if they listen to other people's comedy, they're like, shit, now I can't do that joke anymore. Where if they hadn't heard it, their joke would have evolved into something that's at least enough different that it's not the exact same joke. But just because you hear someone else's, it like, oh, now I can't do it anymore. And that they, in order to like protect the ideas that are coming through them, they have to like guard against what stuff they bring in. Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to balance that, but I think that's a real thing.
Maria Bamford and she's fine. She's already got her platform. We came up with violent positivity around the same time. It's just like, son of a biscuit. Mm-hmm. What? Anyway, so that's the thing. I will allow my unconscious mind to heal while I'm watching TV shows and movies in the next few weeks. It's like, how do we get from inspiration to go and get more traction on stuff that I want to put in the world, because I like my voice. I want it out there without caring that somebody else has played the same 4 chords and arpeggio, that's neat, whatever. Did
you see Soul?
Yeah
That was a good one about, I think, I liked one of the many deep messages in there was about like music is for the experience of the music, that like it's about this moment right now. It's not about who hears it or how much money you make from it or what impact that it has, that it's about the experience of being in the music. And I think about my dad that way. My dad's never recorded anything. And like one day I would love to get a recording, like a CD of songs just of him. CD? Wow. I'm old. A collection of songs because my dad is an awesome singer and guitar player, and he's never really been recorded ever, and one day it won't be around anymore,
right?
But his music for my dad was about the state that everybody gets into in this moment. And like my dad would just pull out his guitar and we'd sing around the campfire at the house, like not even camping, just like we'd go outside. And that definitely gave me a perspective on music as like just a thing to participate in. And it's tough when we've got that the critical mind jumping in and being like, but I'm not as successful as all these judgments and metrics. And at some point, I think in order to enjoy something, you have to be able to let that go and just like do it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. One of the things I love about today in this moment and these like new potential song starters, which I haven't had in quite a while, is that one of the texts that I woke up to this morning was of this friend and I. There were three of us who wrote a song together. I'd never written a song with other people, and I'd wanted to record with a funk bassist and a metal drummer. And at some point, I'm saying it enough at Guitar Center, somebody taps me on the shoulder and is like, you got to meet these guys. These guys are kind of weird. They're doing a weird thing. You might dig it. So I meet these two guys at Guitar Center. I was working there, and they're like, yeah, we're just working with new artists. I'm trying to like write songs together. And we wrote this tune because I'm like, I want to mix these genres together. That's awesome. And so we were inspired by Shaka Khan. We listened to some Shaka Khan. We all like Foo Fighters. So we're trying to do some sort of like, what happens if Shaka Khan or Gladys Knight decide to hire the Foo Fighters as a backup band? And what do they create together? Yeah. And then there were some like topical things on my mind and some challenges that I wanted to do in a tune. And it took us a while to get this song together, and we wrote it together. They jammed it out and came up with an arrangement. And I actually kept having a bunch of resistance prior to showing up. And then the moment we would be in the room, something magical would happen. We wrote these lyrics together. I always wanted a counter melody at some point in a song. And I think we'd had it mostly recorded. And then suddenly the counter melody over the like climax at the end of the song comes in. I'm like, oh, I'm going to sing this thing. It's awesome. There's harmony. And it just kept flowing and kicking ass. And so the first thing that I woke up to today was like, he sends a clip of himself watching our video back. And she's like, oh, I've got goosebumps. And I'm like, I've actually made some cool shit. That's a great fucking song.
Yeah, that's some serendipitous timing as well, given this is what you're in right now.
Yeah. So that's that. That's my check-in for where I'm at. It was longer.
You want to talk about a pirate movie?
Yes, I do. Indeed.
So after, I don't know, a month after I gave the assignment of watching this hidden, I'm going to go out on a limb here and call it a hidden gem of a pirate movie from the 90s called Cutthroat Island with Geena Davis. And it was a notorious box office failure.
Yes.
But I assigned that we should watch this after watching Long Kiss Goodnight. And then you watched it immediately, and it's now been almost a month, and I finally watched it and was pleasantly surprised to find that my memory of it being a pretty fun adventure movie was correct, or at least for me anyway. I was like, oh, this isn't a piece of garbage that I thought was good. Like, I watched 300 recently. I introduced that to somebody, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember really liking this movie. And I was like, oh, this is a bad movie. Like, this is a really pretty dumb, bad, stupid movie. Yeah. Visually stunning, but even like the themes, if you stop and think about it, don't even work. And but man, it just I liked it so much. This one, however, I was like, this is super fun.
Yeah. So can you
I'll leave it there. Yeah. I mean, the best way to synopsize it. The best way to synopsize it for me is you got to talk about the context. So why was this movie so incredibly, notoriously unsuccessful? It had like a significant budget and didn't make any of it back. And they spent a lot of it on explosions. The short version is people were in a super pirate fatigue at that time. Like, there was no nostalgia for pirates. Not that they'd had lots of pirate movies, but that the genre, this is my theory anyway, the genre was played out. And this movie is a by the numbers pirate movie. It is like every cliche of a pirate movie that you can think of. And when you watch it, you're kind of like, I imagine at that time, people watching it and going like, I've seen this movie like 5 times before. Like, all the different elements of it are just things pulled from other movies.
It was weirdly placed. The decade.
Timing wise, you mean? Yes.
Because maybe there was Robin Williams' Hook. Because piratey things hadn't happened in a long while.
Yeah.
It
But
was just before the Pirates of Caribbean. It's like 5 years before that or something.
Yeah, I think it's a little longer than that because
Okay.
I think that's exactly my point, is that at this time, this very formulaic, like by the numbers pirate movie, people were just like, bleh. And then fast forward a little while and people had had a little bit more time to forget about pirates. And then this one had the added Johnny Depp, like doing a weird Keith Richards thing.
Yeah.
And again, formulaic, but also had some supernatural elements, which this one didn't have any of.
Nope.
So then pirates came back, and then they just like rode that horse into the ground completely. But this movie is in many ways, I think, better than even the first one, which the Pirates of the Caribbean first movies is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots more thoughts, but I want to stop. And so the summary of it is, it's just a pirate movie. It's like there's a lost treasure and there's a map and they got to go find it. And that's fucking it.
See, that's helpful. So in pirate world, there seems to be some tropes, right?
Yeah.
Tropes are hidden treasure that you search for all your life. It feels very Moby Dickish that way. Like perfect, lifelong. And then we're just like, pirate movie, if they say that, there's a treasure and it's the such and forth treasure, and it's and you're like, oh yeah, we're just supposed to buy that that's totally worth whatever happens.
Yeah.
All of the things that you have to go through if you're searching your whole life for the thing. Totally. We're just like, already pirate movie equals buy-in to give a shit about that, which is an interesting trope because okay, so this particular one, there's a woman who is the daughter of a pirate who has two brothers, and they are connected to this massive treasure somehow.
Pirate captain is her father.
Yes, but there are three different like brothers who are not necessarily getting along at this point in their lives, and they all sort of have a piece of this map or something for this massively huge rumored epic treasure. And so she gets sort of rankled into chasing it down for reasons. Yeah, and it kind of doesn't matter the why and the what for, because insert pirate movie here. Here's where I start having, because it's my job, doing it like watching this movie like it's my job, to have transformational, thematic, interesting things happen. So right away, the top of the scene, and it's cool, Geena Davis, female pirate. I don't remember, there actually is an Annie something from Ireland who was an epic female pilot.
That's what they're called. Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
So part of the reason I brought this one up is because we watched Long Kiss Goodnight, and I was like, Geena Davis is amazing. She was in a pirate movie, and my girlfriend Faye was like, there's a pirate movie I haven't seen. So my girlfriend used to work on tall ships.
Okay.
Like for extended periods of time, she would like have, climb and like hoist the mainsail and like sit in the crow's nest. And like, she spent time on there and was like, sometimes they would dress up as pirates if kids were coming and stuff. So she knew a lot about the history of pirates. And one of the things that she loved about this is she's like, there are lots of stories about super badass, empowered female pirates. Yeah. And one of the things we loved about this movie was how little emphasis was put on her being female. Yep. That it's like, this story, you could flip the gender and almost every single thing would work. Totally. And it's a pretty progressive movie for the 90s.
Yeah. Well, I dig that when people don't make a thing.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this just by ourselves, but it's come up in this show where I just don't like things to be heavy-handed about like everybody's like, oh my gosh, and she has to explain
100%.
I have breasts and I am also a pirate. Fuck you. Like none of that happened.
Yeah.
No second guessing, just kicking ass, right? First moment in this movie, something about her father gets into this kerfuffle with the main villain guy,
his brother.
Okay. And he like drops off the ship. He's got like an anchor. Does the father choose to jump off the ship with an anchor tied to his foot or something like that? And then she jumps in after him, and I had this like jolt happen, and I was just like, fucking lineage and trauma. Like, let your father go down with his own fucking baggage. Why is this your problem? Like, that she jumps in and she is now also being pulled under. He's been like shot and stabbed, and he's like, I'm going under, leave me, let me go. And she doesn't, because family, right? And so she is being sunk under, and I'm like, the theme of your, like, the lineage of the BS that your parents don't heal and their parents don't heal, that you're pulled under with, like, oh, how do we shake free from the the weights and anchors of our parents?
That is an interesting interpretation of that moment. I think when you said I have to go save him because family. The difference in the way that I interpreted that scene was, I thought I have to go save him because love, I think was the word. I think that I was like, oh no, she loves her father, and that's why she wants to save him. And
it's a very interesting thing, because the whole thrust of the first bit of the movie is that he's like, I cut off the scalp and now take on my quest for this like, it's an interesting responsibility to now have his enemies and his quest, and maybe there's a good payoff for that. I don't know. It's just that first moment is like, maybe she has her own adventures that she'd like to be doing. I don't know, but she's like, you are now the captain of my ship, and and all that's supposed to work out. It's very interesting, like the scene of him dragging her with him.
Yeah. I never got the impression that she was like, we have to go find this because it's my father's legacy. I always got the impression throughout the whole thing that she's like, we have to go find this because I want fucking money. I want treasure, and I want to be rich. And my father had this on his scalp, and I fucking cut it off because, and that is not a particularly easy thing probably to do to someone that you love. And she's like, yeah, I fucking did it. They don't show it because the movie's like PG, but they're like, yeah, I'm going to carry around my father's scalp because that's how much I want treasure. So I felt like it was her quest at that point.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing that I am actually thematically curious about, because I know that you've talked about, like, so the thing for me about pirates and treasure, that like, I don't think I give a shit. Like, my dad loves, like, his generation is super like treasure map and treasure, get the thing, and like, and he likes to go rock hounding now, and he watches shows where they're finding gold. So like the gold rush, the gold digging, all of that is totally culturally woohoo. Space is one of those too. Fucking put things on planets. And I'm not into that. But I was like, but the theme around this, there is, for me, something that I am willing to quest my entire life for, that is precious to me.
Yeah.
The metaphor of the pirate journey, of like sailing overseas, killing people for, willing to die for something.
To find treasure. What is the treasure? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. That theme kept popping up, and I was like part of the conceit that one has to buy into is like, oh, cool, yeah, you know, seasickness, being killed, snakes dropping from things, falling off of cliffs and shit. Also, quicksand.
Oh. When the quicksand part happened, I was just like, oh my god, it's quicksand. It's so adorable.
yeah Woo! To like go through all of that for this like shiny shit that you have to like lug and carry out. Maybe it's useful, but then you're also a target. I don't know. So I'm just like, no, Adrianne, it's a pirate movie. The treasure's important. We're supposed to care. Like, yeah, rah, rah. And I kept wondering, I wonder for each person what what their quest is, what quest, and then some people feel it and some people don't. This thing that they would be willing to strive that much for.
Well, yeah, I Joseph Campbell that shit.
Yeah.
And for me, like the abstraction is what Campbell calls bliss. I know we've talked about this lots, but I think that with treasure specifically, like if you think about it archetypally, I think it's a lot about freedom. Like pirate stories are, number one, you're a swashbuckling independent. I am free from everything. Like it's a kind of cowboy-y kind of thing. Yeah, no, but even more than that, it's like I'm outside the law. I'm outside of society and civilization. And then the treasure is about freedom. What it symbolically represents is when I imagine pirate stories being passed around, and even in this movie, there's a guy who's following them around writing stories about pirates so people can read them. And I imagine part of the fantasy there is like winning the lottery. It's like, well, then I could do anything I want. I can buy a farm or go live luxurious somewhere or travel or whatever it is that the person wants to do with the money. But it's ultimately about the freedom that would create for people, I think, is part of the fantasy. Now, that's not necessarily what the bliss thing is always about.
Yeah. Well, in this case, there's this moment where they all have, like the ending, they all have this shit ton of treasure.
Yeah.
And they're like, and now you have all of it. So if the quest of this treasure was about, now you can go be a farmer, now you can go do this other thing. Or if the journey was what was like being a pirate is the reason, it's not the treasure. Yeah. That's the ending. And I'm just like, well, that makes some sense to me, that the whole
going on the quest. That's the thing that's fun. Let's go find another treasure now, because it isn't really about the treasure. It's about the quest. Yeah. So, okay. Can we go back to the feminist conversation, the progressiveness? Sure. So this was another point and it's mostly a joke. But we were noticing this, and we paused, and she was talking about female pirates, and we were talking about how like interesting the story was, that it didn't make like a big deal out of it. And there's even a section where she's like pulling something out of her undergarments, and they make a joke where she's like, I need to show you this. And then the guy, the prisoner guy, is like, oh, I've seen one. And I was like, even that joke, which is sexual in nature, you could flip that. He could be a female saying, I've seen one. And it would be the same. Like, there's so much of that it was. So then as I'm thinking this thought, I was like, I wonder if this movie would pass the Bechdel test. So just in case anybody following doesn't know, the Bechdel test is a test that is shocking how many movies don't pass it, but it simply means in your movie, are there two female characters who have a conversation with each other that isn't about a man? That's how you pass the Bechdel test. And it's crazy how many movies don't have that. Now, if you flip it and you're like, how many men are in movies that have a conversation with each other that is not about a woman? It's like every fucking movie passes whatever that test would be called, but it doesn't do the flip. So I thought,
are there two women that have a conversation with each other?
Well,
the monkey is a female.
No. This is it. I had that thought. And literally the next line was her walking up to a female whore and propositioning her. She walks up to the prostitute and is like, how much? And the woman is like, excuse me? And then she ends up taking her clothes, like she pays her for her clothes so she can infiltrate as a prostitute. Right. But just like, I wonder if this will pass the Bechdel test. And then it was a joke moment, but her propositioning a female, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that passes the Bechdel test. Like, that is definitely two females having a conversation that is not about a man. Right.
Oh, I forgot about that. It's so good. I also do love that Mathew Modine in this movie is both damsel in distress, but also
Yes, that was another thing we mentioned is he plays the damsel in distress and she is just badass and it's believable. Like I buy it. The sword fighting was nothing to write home about, but I guess in the 90s none of the sword fighting was really that impressive in any movies.
I was really shocked. For instance, at the same time, Lucy Lawless is sword fighting on Xena, and if you watch Lucy, she sword fights like a tennis player, and I'm like, has no one. And Geena Davis was quite athletic in the baseball movie.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. I was like, did no one know how to sword fight? Some of these are not that.
That's what I'm wondering is like, I mean, maybe they just didn't prioritize it or they didn't understand the appeal of having your actors do their own stunts. Like that hadn't clicked. But like, think about, because there's another parallel I want to draw between this and The Princess Bride.
Sure.
So The Princess Bride has arguably several of the most legendary sword fights in any movies ever. They are the choreography, the swordsmanship, the stunts, everything about it is they still, very few things have ever topped it.
Right.
And that happened before this movie. So clearly sword fighting, and then look at Hong Kong cinema. So in the 80s, they were doing sword fights that don't look human.
There's also Robin Hood with Kevin Costner, and you've also got Three Musketeers came out.
But were those good sword fighting? I don't really remember.
In the 90s, good sword fighting. And then what was the other one that I just flashed on? Old Men in Tights was the same guy.
Yeah.
There was something in that time period that had good. Oh, Lancelot, Richard Gere as Lancelot in that First Night. Was around the same time
I
this
haven't
movie was made.
Seen a lot of those, but my recollection of them was that I felt like the sword fighting was still pretty lame and a lot of that stuff too. But I could be wrong. Like I really don't remember. But that was another point I was going to make. I thought it was really interesting that damn it, what's the Mathew Modine? Yeah, Mathew Modine and Carrie Elways from Princess Bride are both cast as Errol Flynn.
Fair, yeah.
Errol Flynn was like the blonde swashbuckling pirate with a goatee.
Yes.
And they literally cast both those actors because they're like, you're a dead ringer for who did I just Errol Flynn. Yeah. And when I watched this, I didn't know that when I watched it before, but I'm like, oh, that's why he looks so much like Wesley from The Princess Bride.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
What are some of my other points about this movie? So I really like your point on the treasure and the appeal of the pirate quest is to go out and then the moral of the story being no, it's the journey, not the treasure. It's the quest that is truly fulfilling. The rest of it, was there any other deep points?
Do you remember? Okay, I remember. Here, I put some note. Here's some notes too. Okay, so there apparently in the pirate trope, it's really important to suddenly have to have a fight at the top mast.
Oh, right. When they were climbing up, I was just like,
climbing.
Yes,
this is
of course. They have to go up there.
Climbing, because it's in the rule. You have to fight up there. They didn't naturally find themselves up there. They're just like climbing for dumb.
Okay, now you guys climb up the.
But here's what's an interesting thing with villains. Okay, so treasure, money. I want all the money. We're just gonna buy into they want that. Or in a bunch of the different Marvel movies, like, people want more power. That was what Hulk. Yeah. The Hulk with Norton, the guy. I feel power, and now that I feel power, I want even more power. And we're like, yeah, of course, it makes sense. Everybody's motivated by what? So here's what's really funny to me. Her uncle is like, join me. Like, I have this evil quest and it is awesome. Let's join together and we can take on the world. And I'm like, what? This thing that keeps happening, this theme of like, I am evil. I have been trying to kill you for the last hour. Join me. to be evil on this quest together. Yeah. And I was like, what? This thing that keeps happening, this theme of like, I am evil, I have been trying to kill you for the last hour. Join me to be evil on this quest together. And I was like, what? This thing that keeps happening, this theme of like, I am evil, I have been trying to kill you for the last hour. Join me to be evil on this quest together. And I was like, that keeps happening. That is a theme. It must mean, do people really feel this? I have been willing to kill you for a really long time, but instead of killing you, and they're like almost winning theoretically in this position where they're like super apparently lonely and really want to
well, okay, so like, it's even more ridiculous. Not only has he been trying to kill her, he has successfully killed a number of her very close friends.
Yes.
Also, at this point in the story, his entire crew is dead.
Yeah.
He's alone. Her crew is fine. His ship is on fire and about to blow up. And he's like, join me. And you're like, I don't think you understand the nature of the situation right now.
But what's so funny to me is that's happened in a lot of movies. And I don't know if it's the villain realizes that they're losing, but
I like your lonely point. I think that's the best, is that deep down they're revealing that they're like, I want a friend.
Being this awful is really hard and alone. It's lonely. Yeah. I think the funny thing is I had just watched Hobbs and Shaw, and I haven't seen all of the like 60 seconds or the car movies or the Gone and the whatnots.
Fast and Furious is the phrase you're looking for.
Fast and Furious. Yeah. So I know the two characters are from those movies, but the villain in there is like, we want you to join us. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're a super robot human. Why were you what?
Just come with us, because we need more of you.
I think it's from Joseph Campbell's Monomyth.
Okay.
And it is parallel to The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh.
And it's part of the hero's journey, that there is a point at which the hero is tempted by the devil, so to speak.
Okay.
And they write it into scripts because it's like thematically there's a thing, it's an opportunity for the hero to prove their purity.
Sure.
To prove their righteousness, to prove that even in the face of the temptation for evil as an easy way out, they won't take it. And it's in this context, it doesn't make any sense, and it's shoehorned in there. There was a lot of 90s stuff that was adorable. Yeah. Like at one point, somebody has a musket that has like 13 barrels.
Yeah.
And then there's all these stupid fucking gadgets that are like, that's not. And like my favorite one is the villain's sword is serrated like a steak knife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, that might look cool, but do you know why you never see swords like that? Because it's a stupid idea. They've been inventing swords for thousands of years, and they don't make them like that because it doesn't work.
Get stuck. And
exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, that was my favorite point. Join me. We'll take on the world.
Yep.
Why is this a thing? Are you super lonely, Uncle? What's going on for you?
Yeah.
Should we hug it out and I'll stab you?
Yeah. You and I were having a conversation recently about the idea of like becoming aware of your triggers that pull you out of stories.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that one of them for me is like guns that have too many bullets. It's like I know a little bit about guns, and when I see a handgun that I know holds like 6 or 8 bullets and they fire it 15 times without reloading, it's annoying. And it triggers a little thing that's like and then when people are accurate about it, I'm like, hey, I appreciate that. Like you put a little effort into making this look realistic.
Totally.
Watching movies with my girlfriend is so good for exercising the Enlightened Couch Potato muscle, the surrender of the critical faculty, because she knows a lot about boats. She knows a lot about cannons. She knows a lot about pirates. And she was like, I am loving this. And all of its inaccuracies do not take me out of it at all because it's delightful. And it's like, I don't care that cannonballs don't explode. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
There's big, huge explosions. I like fire. This is fun. And
I just remembered you telling me that they had spent so much fucking money to build these real fucking ships.
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about the things that we know now about shooting at different angles to make things really, really exciting. And there's a part of the movie where there's just two boats and they're right fucking next to them. Boom, 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 boom. And it's the most hilariously boring. I was like, is this real? They're like, it cracks me up when like battles, you like have all of these strategies to just like walk out to the line and just start stabbing each other.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't seem like the best way to do this.
Well, no, that's one of the moments when she laughed and said, I'm enjoying this in spite of its ridiculous inaccuracies. Because like that is not how ships actually do battle. Like that's so stupid. Why would you do that? I hope we have more bullets than you.
And then our boat stays up. Like the whole point, I guess, in pirate movies is you keep shooting each other and you get closer and closer and then you board the other ship. She's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And how are they both afloat? Are they both afloat? Yeah. How does this even work? They're like 20 feet away from each other.
And then their ship is fine. They don't even show any of the aftermath. Also, that's because at least one of those two ships is an antique. So you'll notice that when like explosions go off of it, you can see that it's not actually the ship, that it's something on the deck of the ship that they have exploding over the edge because they're like, you can't blow up this ship. It's like old.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was pretty great. Cause they may as well have cut to two boats in a bathtub and somebody going pew, 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 because it's just right here. So adorable.
Yes, it was adorable. And like, there's something to be said, and then I gotta go. There's something to be said for formulaic. Because when people say, oh, it's so formulaic. Yeah, but there's a formula for a reason. Yeah. And sometimes when you see something that is like by the numbers formulaic, but they do it well, that to me is what I liked about this movie. I was like, I would call it the quintessential pirate movie, which a lot of people will probably argue that point. Sure. But I would say that it is not original. But in that way, they maybe did what lots of other pirate movies have done better. And then it didn't have that added Johnny Depp element. So in that sense, because Pirates of the Caribbean is more than a pirate movie. It's a supernatural pirate movie with a lot of weird ass stuff thrown. It's silly and in a lot of ways.
Weird healing themes too.
Yeah. This one is like, no. This is what it looks like if you make okay, what are all the elements of a pirate movie? This. Okay, we're going to do all of them. We're going to get them all.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. And I think your theme about treasure is the deepest point that I think we can take from this. And that final moment of everyone deciding that the quest is the point. The journey to the treasure is more valuable than the treasure itself.
Yeah, and I think you and Elizabeth Gilbert, have both said that each one of us is a treasure. And our life's quest is to unlock and uncover the map to unlocking and discovering our own treasure that is always inside us.
Ooh. And on that note, neat little bow. Fabulous. This was great. TV deeply, everyone.
Yes, thanks.
Maybe we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
I say maybe. We'll have to talk about what we're going to do next time, okay?
That's fair. We'll do that. All right.
Okay. All right. Bye.